Just a few months into their budding romance, British tabloids descended on them with racially charged headlines and commentary, like this one from the Daily Mail that read, "Harry's girl is almost straight outta Compton."
She's been subject to incredible online abuse, as has Kate Middleton, but I think there is this component of race that Harry addressed even before they were married.
Prince Harry defended Meghan in an unprecedented royal statement, calling out the racial undertones of comment pieces and the outright sexism and racism of social media trolls.
It's a shame that that is the climate in this world, to focus that much on that, or that would be discriminatory in that sense. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, I'm really just proud of who I am and where I come from, and we have never put any focus on that. We've just focused on who we are as a couple.
Unfortunately, there are also certain classes of people who will dehumanize women, who will dehumanize people of color, and Meghan ticks off all of those boxes. And I think that as we both report on her as the media and as we look at her as spectators, we have to remember this is a human being, and she has an entire interior life that we are not privy to.
At first, their coping strategy would be to ignore the headlines.
I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us. Yeah.
On us.
You were in charge of royal protection. How would you characterize the threats that Meghan and Harry received?
Well, disgusting and very real.
But there were many serious, credible threats against Meghan, were there, emanating from the far right in this country?
Absolutely. If you'd seen the stuff that was written and you were receiving it, the kind of rhetoric that's online, you would feel under threat all of the time.
So you were convinced that there was a genuine threat to Meghan's life on on more than one occasion, on several occasions?
We had teams investigating it. People have been prosecuted for those threats.
Meghan Markle's father had staged paparazzi photos ahead of the royal wedding.
So mortifying for the royal family, enraging, I would think, for Meghan Markle. Like I say, very embarrassing for everybody involved. The one who'll be most angry, Prince Harry. Prince Harry will be really feeling enraged because he still believes his mother died at the hands of the paparazzi, that they chased her and hunted her to her death. The idea that the father of his own bride-to-be is colluding with the paparazzi that he hates and potentially making money out of this wedding will appall and anger Harry beyond belief.
The world is watching this drama play out.
The situation deteriorated when he was hospitalized. Things then got even worse after the wedding, as he continued speaking to the press about her and the royal family.
Of course, it's incredibly sad what happened. She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father.
And of course, the photographs were a setup. I was set up by a guy named Jeff Rayner and another guy named Dylan Howard, who was with American Media, I think. And the whole thing was a plan to actually mess up the wedding. I was just part of it. Basically, they went to my oldest daughter and convinced my oldest daughter to convince me to have photographs to clean up my image, because the photographs before that were always making me look bad. So I bought into it and went along. I regret it to this day because it was a total setup.
Meghan Markle's estranged family is speaking out in a new exclusive interview. The Duchess of Sussex's father, Thomas Markle, half-sister Samantha Markle, and half-brother Thomas Markle are set to appear in a new bombshell interview with Australia's 7 News Spotlight.
And then he started criticizing the royal family. But it was very embarrassing for the family. It was a problem that needed to be solved, and they wanted me to make it stop. And because I'd reached out to Her Majesty, he was like, "This is what's going on. What do you want me to do? I want to make, like, whatever advice you have." But ultimately, it was suggested by the Queen, the Prince of Wales, that I write my dad a letter.
E.T. was on hand as the royal couple made their rounds. First stop, the shores of Sydney, where they bonded with the locals on Bondi Beach.
We had a group hug with Prince Harry, Meghan, the whole OneWave crew in a group hug. And he was so open and they were so friendly with everyone, and it just felt like they were our best friends.
Meghan and Harry spent quality time with community surfing group OneWave, which raises awareness for mental health.
It was the best thing ever, to have Prince Harry and Meghan down there in their bright colours, part of the OneWave family. It just made mental health visible around the world and showed that no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. So just put your hand up, talk to someone, ask for help.
Many were extremely hopeful that their union would usher in a new, more modern monarchy.
It needed a boost of energy, a modernization that would speak to a new generation of people.
And after they tied the knot, they were indeed quite popular. However, per Harry, this shifted the balance and took attention away from more senior royals, which is something the institution didn't want.
One of the big problems with Charles and Diana from the get-go was her incredible popularity, and to the point that I suppose he almost felt ignored when they were in public because all eyes were on her. But it was as a lot of royal tours of Australia have been, it was in its way a watershed moment. Their first tour, and it very quickly started to go wrong. And a lot of people will say that it was on that tour that the root of the problem began, as in fact it was to, many years later, for Harry and Meghan. But there is no doubt that tour and the attention that Diana got caused a lot of friction. And, well, if that was the case, things just continue to go downhill from there.
Not all royals seem to love Australia. Harry and Meghan said that their 2018 visit changed everything. Did Australia break them?
No, I don't think Australia broke them. I think they loved Australia, and I think Australia responded to them. Bear in mind, in those very early days of Meghan and Harry, Meghan got an incredible reception from the public, both at home and abroad. She was literally, if Diana had been a breath of fresh air, you can multiply that by 2 for Meghan, for all sorts of reasons. She was seen as a very, very exciting future royal. Well, she was a current royal, but, representing the future of the royal family. The problem with Harry and Meghan's tour of Australia, people loved them. Wherever they went, they loved Australia. And I think she and Harry had expected that they would get much more recognition from that tour. And in fact, according to them, all they got was resentment. Meghan wasn't praised for being so popular. The palace machine began actually to resent her. So in the same way that it was a watershed, if you like, for Charles and Diana, so it was for Harry and Meghan.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then
everything changed.
That's when the coverage of Meghan took an insidious turn.
The aim was to put them in a box or make them irrelevant.
The one that I think most illustrates the subtle ways in which the media infects the way we think is this one. Because so many people who would ordinarily know much better and have quite a clear line on things are absolutely persuaded that Harry and Meghan are the wrong uns, and that the royal family as it is, or Kate and William, or even Andrew Windsor, that they're the good guys. It's extraordinary, and it hasn't happened by accident. It is the best example, with the possible exception of Brexit, it is the best example of media gaslighting that I have witnessed in my life. And speaking of Brexit, find me someone that hates Harry and Meghan, but can't really tell you why, except something, loyalty something, and I'll find you someone that voted for Brexit.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's fairy tale wedding may have gone off without a hitch, but there was apparently major drama going on behind the scenes. According to a respected British newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, Meghan's sister-in-law, Kate Middleton, was upset at a pre-wedding fitting for her daughter, Princess Charlotte. I spoke with royal expert Victoria Arbiter.
The part that's made everyone go, huh, what's this now, is that Kate was left in tears, apparently at a bridesmaid's dress fitting for Charlotte.
The Daily Telegraph points out that Kate had given birth to Prince Louis a month earlier and was feeling quite emotional.
Meghan gets up early, 5 o'clock in the morning oftentimes, gets on the treadmill or whatever, and starts texting her team members about things for that day. Probably in her mind, she's just kind of getting her day set up. But royal staff members were certainly not expecting or happy to start getting a barrage of text messaged instructions starting at 5:30 every morning, and took great umbrage and offense at that. But I would just say celebrities do that. So for her, I think she was a bit shocked, certainly, that within the royal family, there's a whole different protocol when it comes to speaking to staff.
Meghan's approach to things have been different, and has it ruffled some feathers? Yes, it has.
So the tabloids have coined this name for Meghan, the difficult Duchess, which I don't think is fair, and I'll tell you why. There's nothing wrong with being a woman who knows what she wants. The fact that she is a feminist, she's somebody who's known for really speaking up for what she believes in, people don't like that, and it comes not just from a place of jealousy, but also from a place of sexism.
One thing I think Americans don't understand is how vilified Meghan has actually been in the British press. She cannot put a foot right.
It's been a big year for the Sussexes. Married in May, the couple announced last month that they're expecting their first child. But if that wasn't enough to keep them busy, they're moving house as well. The Duke and Duchess will move out of Kensington Palace and into this place, Frogmore Cottage, in the grounds of Windsor Castle. Harry and Meghan have lived here at Kensington Palace since their engagement last November. Now, almost exactly a year on, they're getting ready to start a family in a new home.
Meghan told Oprah that when she was pregnant, she was told that Archie wouldn't be given a title and he wouldn't have the same security as he would have had with a title.
They didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
It was really hard.
What do you mean?
He wasn't going to receive security.
The former actress explained that there was no explanation as to why Archie wouldn't be given a title or security.
The long-standing rift between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and the Prince and Princess of Wales has reportedly been traced back to the Christmas of 2018. According to recent reports, the first sign of the fallout between the so-called Fab Four, Prince Harry, Prince William, Princess Kate and Meghan Markle, was when the royal couples celebrated the festive season with separate parties. In a recent Netflix documentary, James Holt, the executive director of Harry and Meghan's Archewell Foundation, revealed that a festive celebration due to be hosted by Kensington Palace for the two couples ended up as two parties, a move which he says was indicative of the fact that the offices were separating.
There's a hierarchy of the family. You know, there's leaking, but there's also planting of stories.
There was a war against Meghan to suit other people's agendas.
It's about hatred. It's about race.
It's a dirty game. The pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution, this feeding frenzy.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
I was terrified. I didn't want history to repeat itself.
She was torn down in the tabloids, critiqued for every small thing, down to the way she'd hold her baby bump. The documentary notably shows how similar stories about her and Kate Middleton were spun differently, painting her in a negative light. The coverage of Markle also often had racist under- and overtones.
This is how it was covered for her. This is how it was covered for her. If you don't see the difference and understand why it's being reported that way, or then I can't help you.
When Meghan realized that many were believing the things printed about her in the tabloids, her mental health suffered to the point where she fell into a depression.
It was like, all of this will stop if I'm not here. And that was the scariest thing about it, is it was such clear thinking.
Yes. She's been working behind the scenes. Oh, thank you for doing that. We don't mean so much to Harry. He's been with us in Raleigh for years now, and it's such a conscious and stuff back here.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it, and I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer. Together they have made tonight's event possible. Thank you. And to all of you, our guests tonight, thank you for being with us. And now, let's enjoy the magic of Cirque du Soleil, Cocktail!
She sought help for her mental health crisis, but no help was given.
I said that I've never felt this way before, and I need to go somewhere. And I was told that I couldn't, that it wouldn't be good for the institution.
Earlier on ITV's This Morning, Meghan authorised one of her friends, actor Jovina Gavankar, to expand on that claim.
I talk to them all of the time. We watch the special together.
So after watching the Oprah programme together, it was with Meghan's approval that Janina today claimed that emails and texts do exist which show the Duchess had asked the royal family for mental health support.
I know that the family and the staff were well aware of the extent of it, and though their recollections may vary, ours don't, because we lived through it with them. And there are many emails and texts to support that.
Meghan Markle's father has released a personal 5-page handwritten letter to the Mail that he claims the Duchess of Sussex wrote to him in the wake of her royal wedding to Prince Harry. The letter, dated August 2018, begins with this, quote, "Daddy, it is with a heavy heart that I write this, not understanding why you have chosen to take this path, turning a blind eye to the pain you are causing." So the letter seems to confirm the stories from Meghan's friends shared in this week's People cover story. In it, members of her inner circle also claimed that Meghan wrote her father a letter to express how he was making things difficult for her. In that letter, Meghan reportedly urges her father to stop talking about her in the press and opens up about how he's caused her pain. She writes, quote, "If you love me as you tell the press you do, please stop. Please allow us to live our lives in peace. Please stop lying. Please stop creating so much pain. Please stop exploiting my relationship with my husband." Now, Thomas revealed to the Mail that he sent Meghan a lengthy response, which included a request for a photo op with Meghan and Harry to, quote, "show harmony." Here's some of what he apparently wrote. "I made a big mistake. I'm human and I'm sorry. How much longer must I say it?" He went on to add, "I wish we could get together and take a photo for the whole world to see. If you and Harry don't like it, fake it for one photo." Oh my goodness. So there's been ongoing drama, obviously, between Meghan and her father. He did not attend her May 2018 wedding after suffering a heart attack. We remember this. Meghan states in the emotional letter that she was never informed about that heart attack. Meghan also addresses her half-sister Samantha, saying that she pleaded with her father to stop reading tabloid stories, especially those that were allegedly manufactured by Samantha.
There was a real kind of war against Meghan, and I've certainly seen evidence that there was negative briefing from the palace against Harry and Meghan to suit other people's agendas.
Meg became this scapegoat for the palace, and so they would feed stories on her, whether they were true or not, to avoid other less favourable stories being printed.
We just see it play out. Like a story about someone in the family would pop up for a minute, and they go, "We got to make that go away." But there's real estate on a website homepage. There is real estate there on a newspaper front cover, and something has to be filled in there about someone royal.
This barrage of negative articles about the breakdown of the relationship with her father was the final straw in a campaign of negative, nasty coverage about her.
A bitter legal battle began. Late last week, Buckingham Palace confirming Prince Harry is suing the owners of both The Sun and The Mirror in connection to the illegal interception of voicemail messages.
There's always a risk for Prince Harry in filing this kind of lawsuit. There's the potential for backlash. There's the potential that if they lose, that it could make the tabloids even more aggressive. It's an interesting move by the royals here.
British website Byline Investigates, which broke the story, claims Harry's going after the paper's owners and senior managers, accusing them of covering up criminal behavior that dates back over a decade, including allegations reporters and private investigators accessed his mother, Princess Diana's voicemails in the past.
All anyone has talked about since the penultimate day of that tour are Harry and Meghan's lawsuits.
The other lawsuit coming from the Duchess of Sussex, striking back against the Mail on Sunday and its parent company, accusing them of being on a campaign to publish false and deliberately derogatory stories.
When you continue and constantly see and hear negativity, it can be overwhelming. You can feel powerless and lost. You can feel different, confused, or like you don't belong.
Tensions reaching a boiling point after the Mail published a private letter that the Duchess wrote to her estranged father. In response, Prince Harry got personal. In a statement, Harry writing, "I have been a silent witness to her private suffering for too long. To stand back and do nothing would be contrary to everything we believe in." Harry adding, "My deepest fear is history repeating itself. I've seen what happens when someone I love is commoditized to the point that they are no longer treated or seen as a real person. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces."
These legal cases seem to be ways that he is able to specifically find ways that he can fight back through the courts. We know that he's been furious about the coverage of Meghan, and it seems that it's possible that that has triggered something in him that has reignited his anger over his mother's relationship with the media.
The Duke going on to accuse the paper of strategically omitting portions of the letter to purposefully mislead readers.
In an ITV documentary, we see for the first time the extent of her fragility.
I don't know what the impact on your physical and mental health of all the pressure that you clearly feel under.
I would say, look, any woman especially when they're pregnant, you're really vulnerable, and so that was made really challenging. And then when you have a newborn,
It's a long time ago, but I remember, yeah.
And especially as a woman, it's a lot. So you add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed. It's, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
And the answer is, would it be fair to say not really okay, since it's really been a struggle?
Yes.
Stuff happens, but look, we're brothers. We'll always be brothers. We're certainly on different paths at the moment, but I will always be there for him, and as I know, he'll always be there for me. We don't see each other as much as we used to because we're so busy. But I love him dearly, and the majority of the stuff is created out of nothing. But it's just, as I said, as brothers, you have good days, you have bad days.
Buckingham Palace has confirmed that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and son Archie will spend the holidays with Meghan's mom, Doria, instead this year. This is always, look, first of all, what are your thoughts about this choice? You're the royalist.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, if people watch the show and they've been following the royals even like with half an ear, they know that Meghan and Harry have had a very hard year. Meghan in particular, because she has been on the receiving end of just awful press coverage, and a lot of it with very racist undertones. And so she's had a rough go. And then there's those rumors that keep coming up that maybe there's a rift between Harry and William. And so and they're not going away. And Harry kind of almost alluded to it in a documentary that was aired last month. And so everyone's like, of all the years to maybe show up at family Christmas, maybe this is the one to do it, to maybe try to patch things up, to sort of, show a brave face. The flip side is she's a new mom. She didn't take the full mat leave. I mean, she took most of it, but still got back to work. They did a tour through different countries in Africa, and they brought baby Archie, and everyone's like, she's exhausted. She's exhausted as a new mom. She's exhausted with all of the press coverage, and everyone's like, she needs to just get away. And everyone now, of course, making the comparisons with William and Kate, because everyone seems to be coming down hard on them for not going to Sandringham this year. And then the flip side is Kate and William have done it a lot too, but no one is comparing.
bothers,
They're
right?
not bothering them the same way.
For people with kids, I think there's something quite beautiful about that first Christmas with your baby, just having that sort of nuclear family.
Coupled with the backlash they had already faced following their son Archie's birth and a lack of support, marked a turning point for the Sussexes. They ultimately decided to move to Canada, a plan that the Duke of Sussex notably believes the institution leaked to the tabloids.
And the key piece of that story that made me aware that the contents of the letter between me and my father had been leaked was that we were willing to relinquish our Sussex titles. That was the giveaway.
While Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are happy with their life in California, they previously had another place in mind for where they might start anew. During an interview with the Associated Press, Queen Elizabeth's representative in New Zealand, Governor-General Patsy Reddy, revealed that she once chatted with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex about the possibility of them moving to her country. The conversation went down during Harry and Meghan's royal tour of the South Pacific in 2018. The couple, who were expecting baby Archie at the time, floated the idea of making New Zealand their home base after visiting a local wilderness reserve. Reddy said, "I remember they'd just been down to Abel Tasman National Park when we sat down and had a drink, and they said that they could imagine living in a place like this and wondered whether we thought it would be theoretically possible, even possible for them to have a place in New Zealand. Of course, we said sure, it would be fine. There are lots of opportunities to live in New Zealand, but that will be something that they'd have to explore. They were looking at how they might raise their family, and obviously, they made some decisions since." Reddy added that the conversation was more of a casual chat, rather than a formal request to move there. But it seems like Meghan and Harry really did see the country as an option at one point. During their bombshell tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey this spring, Meghan said she had brought up the idea of moving abroad to a Commonwealth country when they were planning their step back from being senior working royals and reimagining their roles within the family.
We were saying, okay, if this isn't working for everyone, we're in a lot of pain. You can't provide us with the help that we need. We can just take a step back. We can do it in a Commonwealth country. We had suggested New Zealand, South Africa.
Take a breath.
Canada.
Yeah.
It was in central London yesterday, just yesterday, that Harry and Meghan decided in a somewhat bizarre move to make a very public declaration of thanks to Canada for their very private 6-week break from royal duties on Vancouver Island on the country's remote western coast. But it was where they clearly did a lot of thinking. Time with baby Archie, where they took this photo, and some deep chats about their future. Should it be in the royal family or out of it?
And to see just the beauty of Canada, to see Archie go, oh, when you walk around, and to see how stunning it is.
Looking back on how they were yesterday, it's clear Harry and Meghan felt a weight had been lifted from their shoulders, and tonight a dramatic personal statement from the couple explained why. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, the couple said, "We have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to," and here is the key bit, "step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America."
Sandringham, the scene of family gatherings in more united times, is where the Queen has summoned Prince Charles, Prince William and Prince Harry on Monday for face-to-face talks. Meghan will not be there. She is in Canada with baby Archie and will instead dial in to this family meeting where a range of possible ways forward for the Sussexes will be under review. But all the signs are that Harry and Meghan have already put plans in place to go their own way.
Prince Harry is a prince, he's linked to the monarchy, and it's that institution which is causing her and also him an awful lot of pain at the moment. But let's not forget that Harry has fought against the monarchy and fought against the media and his destiny for some years.
Despite the complex issues that the Duke and Duchess's decision to step back has raised, the Queen's told her family and staff she'd like something to be on the table within days, no doubt wishing to avoid another long and drawn-out crisis.
He also claims his attempt to arrange a meeting afterwards was rejected, only to then be scheduled at a time when Meghan would be in Canada. He believes that that was a deliberate move on the institution's part. The meeting itself was apparently tense and not incredibly productive.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me, and my father say things that just simply weren't true, and my grandmother, quietly sit there and sort of take it all in.
In that meeting we just mentioned, things between Harry and his brother William were strained, and a wedge of sorts had formed. When stories came out claiming that William was driving the Sussexes out, a joint statement was released denying the rumor. However, Harry was only informed of said statement's existence after its publication, despite his name being on it.
Within 4 hours, they were happy to lie to protect my brother. And yet, for 3 years, they were never willing to tell the truth to protect us.
As he and Meghan saw how quickly the institution protected William, something it hadn't done for them, it became clear to him that they needed to leave. Despite him making the call, she bore the brunt of the backlash in the press and online, where coordinated hate attacks were launched.
She never asked to leave. I was the one that had to see it for myself. But it's misogyny at its best.
Elizabeth issued a poignant personal statement from Her Majesty the Queen. My family and I are entirely supportive of Harry and Meghan's desire to create a new life as a young family, although we would have preferred them to remain full-time working members of the royal family. Charlie Langston, female editor, DailyMail.com.
You're getting the woman who is the matriarch of this entire family, and you're getting a grandmother saying, yes, this isn't the ideal way that I would have wanted things to go, but Harry is my grandson, Meghan is my granddaughter-in-law, and I support them, and therefore the public should support them too.
Others allege that racism is at the root of Meghan's unhappiness. Black Britons know why Meghan Markle wants out. It's the racism, goes this New York Times op-ed piece written today by a college professor.
Some of the things that you found online, I'll just trot through three, and I'll give a bit of a health warning to people in case any of them, that they are offensive and they're attacking in nature, but just a health warning to those of you listening, on at least one of them anyway. Self-loathing race traitor was something that she was described as trailer trash, and Meghan, the Queen of M Island, M being an animal that I'm not going to say the sentence, but I think people can work out what animal that is in the context. And we've seen that kind of language related to that animal used in football, in racism in football and elsewhere. Loads of others that you found as well. How did the stuff directed at Meghan Markle compare to other racist examples that you found online?
Well, I mean, I'll explain what we did. I'm involved in a project which is a combination of some journalism lecturers and computing specialists, and we're interested in tracking the levels of hate speech and abuse on social media. So we thought this was an interesting case to look at. What we've captured is a snapshot, a sample. So basically, we looked at a period of around a day just after the initial announcement from Meghan and Harry. We captured tens of thousands of tweets which mentioned Meghan, overwhelmingly negative in sentiment, I think it's fair to say. But the stuff that we were most interested in were the most abusive tweets. So we captured, in that 24-hour period, we captured around 400 tweets which were abusive about Meghan and which contained what you would regard as some of the worst racist and misogynistic terms, and the ones you've kind of read out there are at the kind of lighter end of the spectrum, it's fair to say.
So plenty of it was just unreadable from my perspective.
It was, yeah, and even for people like myself who kind of deal with this stuff on a regular basis, it's still, when you read through it and you actually read the content, it is still shocking to read. And I know some of my computing colleagues who aren't used to kind of dealing with this kind of stuff get really upset when they actually read the kind of stuff that we're capturing. So I think sometimes you become desensitized to it when you see it a lot. But I was still shocked.
Now, the internet and Twitter and online attacks are I mean, sometimes newspapers put things out and they end up on the internet as well. So that can feed it. It can feed the whole thing, can't it? The whole sort of system, the whole ecosystem of racism.
Yeah, it's all connected, I think. Yeah.
But most people with even... Actually, you don't even need a public role for this to happen to you on Twitter and elsewhere. There's something about it that's just full of bile and full of venom and hatred and jealousy and enmity and all of those things. Is it any different for her because of the scale of her position in British life?
Well, that's a good question, and I wouldn't have clear evidence. I mean, my sense is that if you're a high-profile person, probably the higher profile you are, the worse it is. It's bad. So, we have lots of examples of female politicians who deal with this stuff on a daily basis. I'm sure.
I get it. I get it. I'm not on the same scale. I don't imagine for a second, but I just don't engage with it. So I know that on a daily basis, when I do my job, there are people at home tweeting. I've muted them, most of them, but they tweet and I set up my screen in front of me so that they're not there, so I don't see what's being said, because it's vicious, absolutely vicious, and it's endless. It's not just directed at me, but it is directed at me. Now, is there an argument that actually there are these weirdos all over the country, some of them are racist, put it to one side, leave it? Or is it fair enough to say, I can't stomach this, I cannot live like this?
I think that has to be a personal choice. I think some people obviously can deal with it better than others. Personally, I'd much rather live in a society where nobody had to deal with that. I think the reality is that if you want to be on social media and you are a person of profile, you will get a lot of this. And the sad fact is that you'll get a lot more of it if you're a woman. There's research that's shown that I think female politicians are 3 times more likely to get abuse than their male counterparts, for example. And obviously, in the case of Meghan, a lot of the abuse we found was what you might call misogynistic, but there's the added kind of issue of the kind of racist content as well.
Is telling your truth declaring war?
Is telling your truth declaring war? So really what the basis for people who aren't following along is that Harry and Meghan released the clip for their Netflix 6-part documentary, and now the British media is saying that this was a way to declare war on the monarchy because it was timed with William and Kate's U.S. tour. Right. Now, did they do that on purpose? Was it intentional? I say it doesn't matter. And I think the reason that it doesn't matter is people forget that most of the world has really decided what their feelings were about the monarchy and their collusion with the British media. Back when you hunted and caused the death of Princess Di, you might remember that Princess Diana was the people's princess. That means that is the world stage. It means that people like myself, who aren't a part of the bubble of the monarchy and the British media, can't be manipulated into whatever agenda that the media wants to put out there. So when Harry and Meghan decided to come to the U.S., yes, absolutely, we opened our arms and welcomed them in. Why? Because y'all are tripping. Now, the bottom line is it's giving very much misogynoir, it's giving very much institutionalized racism, and it's giving very much anti-Loving v. Virginia, which in this country has been codified. Yes, it was codified the day before yesterday.
Interracial marriages!
It is codified. So when this 6-part documentary drops on Netflix, we will all be watching, we will be taking notes, because it turns out that there are 2 parts to every story, and the British media has gone out of their way to make sure that Harry and Meghan was the minority voice of their very own story. So yes, we want to hear exactly what they're going to say, because it's interesting, and because also it's their truth and it's their lives. So now that the British media has decided that they're going to drop all of these headlines and be salacious saying that Harry and Meghan are coming after the monarchy, it's giving very much projection, and it's smothered in hypocrisy. And most of us do not like that, and that's why you are where you are right now.
Well done. Now, really quickly, Tori, Al, there's not much more to say after what Erica said, but I just want to hear, why do you think the British media, the tabloid media, is so much more racist, ruthless than here in America? They came to America to escape it, but why, in your opinion?
I'll tell you a fact that I learned. The castle, Buckingham Palace, would not allow any person of color or foreigner to be in any clerical position at all until the late 1960s. That sets a tone for blatant racism. They are the other, and she is an American divorcee actress who happens to be black. X from them. It's just racism. It's colonialism and it's racism.
But I think it's yes that, but it's deeper than that, because you're also forgetting that this woman of color was allowed, in their words, to come into and be a royal, and she walked away from it.
Yes.
That was the atomic bomb.
She left
here.
them.
You see it in much smaller levels. When a football player retires early, you'll see all the fans go, "What are you doing? How dare you?" Because the fans are like, "You have this privilege. We're letting you play for the Detroit Lions. That's everybody's dream." And when somebody says it's not my dream, that's when the vitriol
They get
comes
insulted.
out. And what this woman of color did was she unknowingly dismantled this mental the entire basis of a lot of people's lives. Is like the highest thing is the royals, and if she walks away from it, well then what does that say about what you've dedicated your life to?
Very well said. All three of you, well said.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are officially set to start their new life. The two wrapped up their last royal commitments Monday. Prince Harry and Meghan attended the Queen's Commonwealth Day service Monday afternoon. The ceremony, which was filled with performances and attended by celebrities and royal family members, was the last event the couple had to attend as senior working royals. Harry and Meghan also got a taste of what their new life will be like. Due to last-minute changes, the two were reportedly led straight to their seats and did not join the royal procession behind the Queen. The couple made several appearances at events over the weekend and were even the guests of honor at the Mountbatten Festival of Music. Meghan visited a school for International Women's Day, while Harry attended the opening of a British racing museum. In January, the couple announced they would be stepping back from royal duties and splitting their time between the UK and North America. Harry later said they had no other option because Meghan had been subjected to intense media scrutiny in her role as Duchess. As non-working members of the royal family, Harry and Meghan will no longer use Royal Highness titles or receive public funding, along with several other new arrangements. They all go into effect by the end of the month.
Your family cut you off?
Yeah, in the first quarter of 2020. But I've got what my mum left me.
When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, announced that they were stepping back from royal duties in 2020, they said they hoped to maintain their security.
During Harry and Meghan Markle's exclusive interview with Oprah Winfrey Sunday night, the Duke of Sussex opened up about their ongoing friction with the royal family.
You wanted freedom from that life, you wanted freedom to make your own money, but you also wanted to serve the Queen.
We didn't want to give up, or we didn't want to turn our backs on the associations and the people that we'd been supporting. I had 3 conversations with my grandmother and 2 conversations with my father before he stopped taking my calls, and then said, "Can you put this all in writing, what your plan is?"
But when Prince Charles first learned of their plan to step away from royal duties, Harry said his dad's reaction sent a clear message.
But Queen Elizabeth argued that one could not be both in and out of the royal firm, according to Buckingham Palace. So Harry and Meghan were stripped of their patronages.
Our security was being pulled. Everyone in the world knew where we were.
I said, "We need to get out of here."
So you just said that your dad stopped taking your calls. Why did he stop taking your calls?
Because I took matters by that point, I took matters into my own hands. It was like, I need to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where this was headed.
This was Harry and Meghan's first sit-down interview together since before they married in 2018. And ET has learned the broadcast arrived during a tense moment for the Prince's family.
To see this institutional gaslighting.
But I wasn't being thrown to the wolves, I was being fed to the wolves.
They were actively recruiting people to disseminate disinformation.
They were happy to lie to protect my brother. They were never willing to tell the truth to protect us. I've always felt as though this was a fight worth fighting for. I wonder what would have happened to us had we not got out when we did.